joining me. Well, this is part 4 of the South Bend 11 rebuild. If you haven't seen 1, 2, and 3, be sure and check them out. Today we're going to put the drive on the back of the lathe and power this thing up. I'm really excited about it. I want to see what it'll do. Also going to put a hand wheel on the tailstock, but that doesn't take too long. Anyway, let's get on with it. Okay, I got those screw holes right there. I probably wouldn't have put those in there, but they were already there when I bought the lathe. So I'm going to use it to mount my drive to. Here's what I got so far. Got those cut out like that to match this piece of angle iron. There's already an existing hole there, so I just milled from that hole. It gives me some adjustment. Kind of runs into where I'm going to weld this right there. But this hangs off the back of the lathe. And right here, those are the holes I just drilled. A 1/2 inch rod will go through there. This will go in there. And I don't have the metal for it yet, but there'll be a lever mounted right here for this cone pulley. And this came with the, I want to drop that pulley. This came with the lathe, so did this. So I've got everything I need there, hopefully. This is what it'll look like when it's done. That part right there bolts to the lathe. Cone pulley goes right in here and it pivots like that. The weight of the motor will tension the flat belt, and the weight of the motor will also tension to the upper pulley. The upper pulley was right in here. Anyway, it'll be clear as we go. There we go. That's my motor mount, and I'm not sure. I was going to weld that there. It's really not that critical, but I've got to cut slots for my motor, and I wanted to be able to take that off so I could clamp that in the middle a little easier. Probably could have clamped it with that on, welded on there, but anyway, that's why I changed my mind and bolted that on. Well, my hand wheel came in. Pretty rough casting. Let's see if we can make it look nice. Gotta drill a hole in it first. Well, it's kind of wobbly, isn't it? Little indentation right there is pretty darn close, actually. that's wobbly. Wobbly. Probably should have spent the $50 and got a nice hand wheel. Would have saved a lot of time. Let's see what emery cloth will do to this one. Yeah, I think that looks good enough. I'm going to face that off right there. And then be ready to cut a keyway. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. And we'll put it on the lathe. Hell yeah. Can't beat that. I probably went a little too deep, but it'll work. That's what I had to stop it from rotating. There we go. Now I've got to cut threads on that end. Didn't leave myself very much, but I don't need very much. I'll probably put a jam nut on it. Looks good. Now all I got to do is put a handle on it. Nice little handle. Got that on eBay. I may have to grind off the end of the threads. I made a blind hole there. Oh no, it's doing good. I like it. Okay, I got two of these that are identical. And I'm going to undercut part of it and thread it. And that'll go through a bracket and there'll be a nut that goes on here. And this is will have bushings pressed in each side. It's going to be the bearing block for my jack shaft on the drive. I'm using this ledge right here to index it in my chuck. I just put that right there and then pushed it in and tightened the chuck. That will allow me to set my carriage stop and cut the same amount off of each one, which is 1 inch. So I'm going to cut this down to 1 1/8 inches. So this is 1 1/4 inches, so I need to go 1/16 off each side, so 62 thousandths. .125. I need to thread it for that nut. Forgot what that is, but I took my thread gauge and measured it. It's 12 threads per inch. 12 is right there, so I got to set this left lever on A, and this lever lines up right there. So I'm set up for 12 threads per inch. Okay, I've got my threading tool in there. I saw somebody else do this. I don't remember who I saw do this, but to square it up to the vise, or I mean square the threading tool up, put a piece of steel up against your chuck. Seems to work pretty good. Be sure and do it against the tool itself and not the holder. Sometimes the tool's sitting in the holder crooked. Here's the thread piece we want to thread. Okay, I'm touching right there, zero my dial, go in about 10 thousandths. Yeah, I'll move the camera to the other side because it's kind of in the way for operating the lathe. Facing off the end of this nut, it's just a little bit thicker than I'd like it, mostly for cosmetics. It really wouldn't hurt anything. Let's make sure my feeds are right here. Okay, the exact hole location is not that important. They just have to be the same to each other. So I got it clamped together and clamped in the vise, and we're going to drill with that mill. Oh. Here we go. poor planning on my part. Here's how you do this on a round column mill. Losing my horizontal reference by doing this, but if I drop that mill in the hole and lock it down again, we'll be good. Okay, lock it down. And I need the bushing block recessed 1/4 inch. So this is the recess. Counter bore, if you want to call it a counter bore. Do a 1/4 inch. The reason I'm doing this, I've got to flip that over. Let's see. Yeah, I got to flip it over. I need it to be in that same location. Hopefully this will do good. Yeah, let's see if everything lines up right. Here's one possible motor. Darn heavy motor too. Believe it or not, that thing's only 1/2 horsepower. I'll come back here. Okay, let's put this thing together to see if it works. I had a friend of mine weld this tube in here, and these things drew in about 1/8 of an inch. I had to heat it back up and spread them back out. Then I had to run a ream through both of these. Run the cone bowling. Boy, it's a heavy motor. Believe it or not, it's a 1/2 horsepower. It's a very old motor. I may not stick with this motor because it doesn't reverse. But I thought, wow, it looked good with the lathe. Well, there the motor is mounted, and it's working like I was hoping. It's got plenty of tension there for the flat belt. Maybe too much. Maybe too much. I've got to come up with a belt for that, and a key and a set screw. And then I got to make a flat belt, and then I got to paint that, take it all apart. Little ways to go yet. Yeah, let's see if we get some smoke. Oh yeah, I like it. Well, there it is. I think it's going to work out good. I think I'm going to run it probably tilted in that position. When you're up here like that, that's putting a lot of tension on that flat belt. The further you get down this way, the less tension it is. I think it looks all right like that. The bushings are a little tight, and I oiled them. I'm going to let it sit there and run, make sure it doesn't lock up on me. I still got to put a flat belt on there, but I'm going to clean up before I do that. I got a mess going here. Well, there it is. I got the flat belt installed. Looks like it's about the right amount of tension. Let's see what it does. Yeah, pretty good. There we go. See, 6. Left, right. That's 12 threads per inch. There's a 1/2 nut. It's supposed to be 12 to the right. Oh. My shifter on the left here is out, so that means I'm cutting 48 threads per inch. Okay, there's some back gear. Right there I'd be cutting 12 threads per inch. There we go. Okay, here we go. 3 threads per inch. pretty extreme feed rate. I can't say that I've ever cut 3 threads per inch. Anyway, I got some learning to do on it, and got to take apart the drive and paint it. I'll do that tomorrow. Okay, the drive system worked really well. I'm very pleased with it. Yesterday I made a handle here and kind of duplicated the tailstock handle. This one right here. It helps gives you something to grab to change the speeds, like that. Anyway, next step is to wire the switch, or wire the motor, and put some kind of switch where it's easily accessible. The motor itself is reversible, but not electrically. In other words, there's it's a repulsion induction, and there's some brushes in there you have to turn to reverse the motor. Anyway, to make that reversible, I got to have like maybe a choke cable coming from the brushes out of this to rotate those brushes in there. So that's what I'm going to try to do now. I don't know if I'll be successful or not. The brushes are right here. They run all full time against the armature there. And these 2 brushes are connected. They're connected in pairs. They're the wire going across. And to change the direction, you flip that little lever there and rotate this plate. But I got to make that plate rotate freely. Right now, there's a lot of resistance. It takes a lot of effort to rotate that plate so that it rotates freely. Needs to rotate like that. That's a choke cable clamp, or throttle cable, or whatever, to move my brush assembly on the motor. Okay, hopefully this works. Harder to move than I thought it would be, but it needs to stay put too, though. So that may be a good thing. Forward. Reverse. Cool. Well, I'm gonna have to drill a hole down there to get, no, up here. Got confused. I believe that's got it. Now I can loosen my belt without that lever reversing the motor. And I can grab that from the front of the lathe. I like it. Yeah, that hole was a booger to drill. Don't have the right equipment to drill holes that big in steel. Okay, let's hook this electrical up. I haven't got a motor box to mount on the motor yet. I'll have to do that later. But I can go ahead and put a switch on it. I wish I could find an old looking switch, but so far I haven't been able to find anything. And through the magic of video, this pipe is painted. There we go. Let's give it a try. There's reverse. There's forward. Cool. Well, there it is. Completely done. Well, except for those wires that are hanging on the motor there. I gotta come up with some kind of box to attach to the motor. Other than that, it's all done. Got the power switch on there. Works good. I'm really pleased with the way it came out. Anyway, I like it. That's my makeshift tool holder. Didn't work out too good. I'll have to put a quick change on it. Well, I got it all wired up and ready to test. This lathe here has some different ways to control the feed rate. Kind of a learning curve for me. Right here is like a high and low range. It's a clutch, changes some gears in there. I think out is a slower range. It's capable of doing like 2.5 threads per inch, which is unbelievably fast feed rate. Don't really know why it's needed. But right here is your forward and reverse lever. And right here, this is pretty typical on a quick change gearbox. You line this plunger pin or whatever, line it up with the columns, and these columns are threads per inch. This right here is what's kind of unusual. Not only does it have the high and low range over here on the side, but it's got 3 different positions here. And you just about got to do it with a runner, otherwise it doesn't. There's the middle position. There's the left position, middle, and right. That's slow, medium, and fast feed rate. So right here, follow this up, and right here it says a bunch of different feed rates. And we got the clutch out, so it's one of these 3. And then right now I got it in the center. There's left, center, and right. So the center position lined up with this is 52 threads per inch, which is a pretty slow feed rate. The controls here are pretty similar to most lathes. On the apron here you got your saddle manual movement. But right here is a 3-position clutch. There's middle position, upper, and bottom. And the upper position, kind of awkward to use, upper position makes this clutch active. You tighten that, and it starts to feed. See it moving there? Middle position, now right now I can't put my half nut in, but the middle position is for the half nut. Now I can engage the half nut, which is also feeding it at a slightly different rate. And the bottom position, kind of awkward to move those things. The bottom position controls the cross feed. Can't move it. So it's just a little different. Something to get used to. I'll put it in the threading position. I'll put it in the But it all works really good, so I'm pleased with it. Okay, right now I'm in back gear. That's like a jack shaft right here. Kind of hard to explain how it works, but obviously the chuck's moving much slower than the belt speed. So to take it out of back gear, got a lever right here. You can see this gear move. It disengages, but then you got to engage, and this is probably hard to see, there's a lever right here. Basically, engages this pulley with the spindle. So now it'll be much faster. It's like a turning speed. Okay, to adjust the speed of the lathe, you do like this. There's the middle speed. A bit faster. And here is the highest speed. I added this handle, I think I showed you that in the video, earlier in the video, just to help you pull slack in the belt. And this is my reverse lever if I want to go in reverse. Anyway, Let's see what it'll do. Okay, let's see what it'll do. I don't know if I'll get this dead on center or not. There. That's about a 64th of an inch, I guess. Let's try 50,000. Taking 50,000 off right there. That's a pretty good cut. I hear some chatter there. It's probably pushing things a little bit. Well, I'm pleased. It's not the smoothest cut, but that's not really a very good tool. A little bit of wobble. No, that's not a very good cut. I think that was because I took too much. Well, I went in and tightened the bearings in this south bend, and they were definitely loose. And if I don't take quite as heavy a cut, it really makes a nice finish there. I'll show you what I mean. That's probably a little too small. There we go. The bearing on this end of my spindle was pretty good. But this one was, I think it had about 6 thousandths play in it, which is pretty significant. And I tightened it down to about 1.5. And from what I've been reading, 1.5 is about as tight as you need to get it, because there's got to be room for oil underneath that cap, or between the shaft and the... There's the shims I put in there, and then there's some right there. I don't want to disturb them because they're pretty good the way they are. Brass shim stock and some copper I had. Might be able to get it like a 0.5 thousandths tighter. That's probably pushing things. Anyway, I'm really pleased with the lathe, and that about wraps it up for today, and thanks for joining me. Be sure and subscribe.